This is John Butler. We're at the Burnt Corn reenactment, the 200th anniversary of the Burnt Corn Skirmish in Brewton, Alabama is the location for today. This is John Butler. He's a reenactor and a historian. So John, tell us a little bit.
This was a very significant action during the War of 1812. This action actually is the first time we've done anything as far as reenacting this incident, but basically this battle started as a result of the conflict between the settlers and the Creek Indians during the Creek Indian War. Basically what had happened is the Creeks had allowed a road through Alabama that went all the way from Macon, Georgia, all the way down to Mobile, and it caused some problems because initially they thought it would be a good idea, but what happened was the settlers started peeling off and building cabins in the backwoods, and conflicts developed over arguments over cattle and hogs and things, and the Indians kind of felt threatened now because of the encroachment on their native lands. So what they did is they mounted an expedition to Pensacola to procure weapons, arms, powder, lead, blankets, and things to fight the settlers. Well, they made it to Pensacola, and they traded with the Spanish, who controlled Pensacola at the time, and they were on their way back through this area on up to the Holy Ground and several of their settlements in central Alabama. Well, they camped right up the road here in a little place called Burnt Corn Creek. There was a crossing there. They had a lot of pack horses loaded down with these supplies and everything, and while they were standing there at the little creek having lunch and letting the horses feed and graze, a group of local militia heard about this expedition the Creeks were mounting to get supplies to fight them on the frontier. So they basically attacked the Creeks and were very successful initially. The Creeks were taken by surprise, pushed back into a little swampy area, and the militia was very successful at first. But what happened was they lost their focus when they started focusing on the pack animals where the supplies were, the powder and the lead and blankets and all kind of supplies. So they started pilfering these pack horses and lost focus. About that time, the Creeks got together real quick, reloaded their muskets and rifles, and made a counterattack against the militia, and were very successful in pushing the militia off the field. It's generally considered an Indian win for them, but it was a bittersweet victory because they lost all of their supplies. The Americans lost the field, but they were able to hold on to the pack horses and the equipment that the Creeks were taking back to fight the war on the frontier. A lot of people don't realize it, but what was going on at the time, there was a lot of dissension in the Creek Nation. There were a lot of Creeks that were stirred up by Tecumseh, who came down from the Ohio country. He was a Shawnee. And Tecumseh traveled down to this area to incite the Creeks and the Cherokees and different Indian nations to unite against American encroachment on native lands. Well, he made a big speech to the Creeks. A lot of the Creeks wanted to fight with Tecumseh. They were called the Red Sticks because they painted their war clubs red. So, and a lot of the Creeks, though, wanted to be friends with the Americans and so forth. So the Creeks started fighting among each other. The settlers got pulled into the fight, and because of this incident that happened here at Burnt Corn Creek, led to the campaigns there against Fort Mims, Fort Sinkfield, the Kimball James massacre over in Watley, Alabama, over on the way to Grove Hill. So, needless to say, the training of the militia by Jackson and so forth was very instrumental in Jackson able to win the war, the battle for New Orleans. If Jackson had not been fighting during the Creek Indian Wars and had an opportunity to train an effective militia and army, his probably success down at the Battle of New Orleans would have been less because he would not have had a trained standing army ready to fight. So after the Creek Wars, when the British went down to New Orleans to occupy the mouth of the Mississippi River, Jackson just brought his militia that he'd been fighting the Creeks with down there, and you know the results of that. Jackson was very successful in defeating the British at the Battle of New Orleans.
Thank you.
That gives you an idea of what sort of went on. This is so important because it's 200 years of the anniversary of these incidents in the War of 1812. So very important time frame.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
John Butler.